What's going on, good people? It's Rich here. You know I was laughing. I was laughing because I know exactly what you was doing. I saw that smile pop on him. Look at Rachel. Look at Rachel. Oh man, Ray P, how you feeling?
I feel good. Guys, just to let you in, we are working on Rachel's RBF.
No.
So here we are. I feel well. I am a little sleepy. So hopefully this conversation that we've both been dying to have doesn't end up like with delirious laughter.
And if it does, I think everybody appreciates that.
For
Um,
sure. How are
First and
you?
foremost, Rachel's back. Rachel hasn't been on Culture Garden in a few
I
weeks.
know it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah, and it's funny because this episode is a little bit different than what we normally do, but we'll get into that in a second. Before we get started, thank you all. Thank you to everyone out there listening, watching, tuning in, subscribed, always checking for new episodes, giving us feedback, leaving comments, the whole nine. We appreciate y'all. Um,
Absolutely.
we talked about Rachel not being on in a few weeks. She's holding it down on We Got Y'all.
Thank you.
A lot of great conversation. And I'm not saying that just because we're doing it. We're getting a lot of good feedback.
We
Just people
are
are loving this season of Raising Canaan. So shout out to Raising Canaan for one.
for
So they're
sure.
giving us something good to talk about. We've been down the path when shows haven't been that great. There's a show coming back this month that we covered last year that we are not covering this year. We ain't throwing nobody under the bus though. But check out We Got Y'all. If you're not subscribed, please make sure you listen to us over there. And before we get started today, there will be spoilers and explicit content. Mention that we're going to do things a little bit differently. Rachel and myself were discussing what we were going to do this week. And there needs to be a discussion and conversation around centers. I
Absolutely.
think that y'all heard me say this plenty of times. I don't like the instant reaction world that we live in.
Hmm.
Even when I gave my own rating on Instagram for the Culture Garden page, I didn't give it a letter grade because I wanted people to go out and see it themselves without any kind of expectations of what I said in the whole nine. Rachel, I texted you before you saw it,
For sure.
after I saw it, and just told you phenomenal. A lot
You
of people were talking about. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you did. And to be transparent, I think that when we both you initially sent me the trailer. It's
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Yeah, absolutely. A while ago, quite
a
some time.
while ago, yeah. And so when I first saw the trailer, I'll be honest, I was not super interested. And boy, was
Exact words were guard my gates.
guard my gate.
Exact response from Rachel.
I love a good guard my gates. If you know, you know. But that's how I felt. Um, for a multitude of reasons. I wanted to be kept away from what I thought the movie was going to be, from performance to story. But I was just totally blown away. And rarely am I happy to be wrong.
Mm.
But in the case of Sinners, I was so excited, and thrilled to have been wrong and have eaten my proverbial crow in regards to the film.
Yeah, it was. And I don't know if I said this at the beginning. My fault, y'all. This is going to be like a freestyle conversation.
Yeah.
Shout it out. We got y'all. If y'all listen, it's going to be similar to that. We're not going to go through our regular categories. We will at some point discuss Sinners in
Mhm.
its regular format, but we'd like to give it some time to age and see how it stands over the test of time and everything. But it's just too much of a moment not to have a conversation.
For sure.
Um, to your point, Rachel, I love when movies don't really tell you what it's about. Like the
Yeah.
teasers, we had known about Sinners for maybe about a year.
Mhm.
I remember the first teaser. We saw Michael B. Jordan. We knew it was going to be directed by Ryan Coogler. We had
Mhm.
no other information. We just knew it was a period piece,
Yeah.
and that was it. And then as newer trailers started coming out of the first official, you see the horror element, and it's like, all right, then this might be a little bit much. Interesting nonetheless, but I'm not necessarily in a rush to see it. I'm a fan of Coogler, fan of Michael B. Jordan, trust their work. I'll check it out, but not in a rush. But it was something about as the movie got closer and the premiere date was arriving, everybody was talking about this.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, do you remember or recall the last time a movie just kind of came? I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but the buzz around it was just so strong that you almost had to go see it just to see what it was about. Whether you had plans on it or not, like I have to be a part of this conversation. I don't want to be left out. Actually, Rachel, before you answer that, it reminds me of the good days when there was no social media.
Mm-hmm.
Internet was very minimal as far as what you used it for. And there was a culture of if you missed the episode of something, you just missed it.
Yeah.
You can't sit at the lunch table with us as we discuss this. Can't
Mm-hmm.
stand with us by the lockers as we discuss this because you don't know. And you got to check the TV guide to see when it's coming on again and kind of catch up from there. And you don't want to be the person missing out on that conversation. And that's what this felt like. But yeah, did you feel that same way as far as like, yo, I have to see this now? Like, what made you, as someone who said, I'm not going to watch this, eventually say, you know what, let me get to the theater?
Honestly, okay. So to answer the first part of the question, the last thing that I could think of that I really didn't have maybe the most interest in seeing, honestly, was probably Black Panther because I'm not a comic book girl. I've not seen anything else in the universe other than Black Panther 1 and 2.
The
I
fact that
know.
you've avoided Endgame and Infinity War is impressive. It's impressive.
Maybe they've been on and I've
Fair.
been in the vicinity, but to sit down and actually watch, absolutely not.
Understood. Understood.
But maybe I will going forward. Maybe I will before it's I guess Endgame was the end of it, huh? Um,
Nah, it's still going. They're on phase 5 right now, wrapping up phase 5, about to start phase 6. It's a lot, Rachel. We'll fill you in later.
well, maybe
Yeah.
at some point throughout this culture garden duration, I might find my way back to some sort of Marvel verse movie film situation. But I would say that Black Panther is probably the next thing, or maybe even Get Out, considering similar genre. That might be the other film that I could think of that I honestly had absolutely no interest in seeing, because at least Black Panther had the benefit of being um Chadwick, and I know that I enjoy him, enjoyed
Yeah,
him.
absolutely.
So maybe Get Out, if not Black Panther. Um Honestly, even though you steered me wrong with She Taught Love, I really
I ain't never gonna let that one down.
I trust your opinion. I trust um your takeaways.
Appreciate
Even
that.
if I don't necessarily agree, when you really, really stand by something, I trust that. And I can go and glean whatever it is that I need to glean from that. And this was no different. So when you finally said, I went to go see it, it's like that. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go. And I think I went that day. You told me you saw it.
Yep.
We recorded, we got y'all, and I went to the movies that afternoon.
Yeah. Was your theater packed?
My theater was, I want to say full, but not packed. Like not every single seat was full, but niggas
Majority
was
though.
majority were
Okay.
full. Yeah.
I'm only asking because that played a big part into the experience as well.
Mhm.
People's reactions, and once again, just not knowing what you were getting.
For sure.
Um, and there's so much to unpack and talk about. I saw someone, you mentioned Get Out, and I like that comparison as far as just the movie that just kind of had you thinking after you saw it.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't really know what you're walking into, and it's just elevating first act, second act, third act. I'm like, yo, what the hell? Like I haven't seen anything like this, or at least in a long time. I saw someone put this on Twitter around the opening weekend where the difference between Get Out and Sinners was as soon as I finished Sinners, I immediately knew I wanted to see it again. Like I immediately knew that I was not me personally. Whoever said this, they said that I was already planning my second visit to go see it.
Okay.
There was so much going on with it in the cast and the acting. Get Out kind of snuck up on you.
Uh-huh.
And Sinners was one where you're like, all right, then let me double check to make sure I didn't miss anything, and let me just appreciate and experience this again. I don't know if it's meant to be taken or absorbed in that way. Um, unless you're looking for the Easter eggs and looking for the hidden messages after reading all the internet chatter. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you're supposed to watch Sinners once every weekend or something like that. I think, you know what I mean? I don't know if it's for that, but it is incredible art.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that everybody rolled behind it, because we'll talk about Variety and their headline and
For sure.
just the box office and all of that. But
Um,
just great film experience. Go ahead.
Definitely a great film experience. So just to roll it back just a skosh, I think also the area of Charlotte that I live in, I went to a white theater essentially. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that that too played a part because I specifically wanted to see it in IMAX and I caught a matinee. But then well, every time I've seen it, it's been a matinee just because all that fucking driving. But I think that plays a part also in the theater experience and who and how you experience it with. Um, I started laughing thinking about the first time I saw Get Out and the contrast of the first time I saw Sinners. To your point, when I saw Sinners the first time, I immediately knew that I was going to see it again in theaters. I was not waiting until it came to streaming or until I was able to buy it. After I saw Get Out, I made a phone call. I made a
All
phone
right.
to somebody that I love very dearly
I know about this.
who is in a similar relationship. And I just asked, "Hey, you all right?
Everything good over there?
You all right? You better tell me if something don't feel good, you better tell me. Let me know." But ironically enough, and here is a difference, and I think we'll get into this conversation. My pastor saw Get Out before I did.
Okay.
And from the pulpit, he was like, "Hey, y'all got to go see this movie."
Hmm.
And he holds himself on not wanting a quote unquote dumb church and this, that, and the third. Um, so I have that in mind just for the psychological mm, premise
Yeah.
of Get Out versus uh the psychological quote unquote premise of Sinners. And I say that, and that's something that really comes to mind because my pastor wasn't the only pastor that I saw singing Get Out's praises. Whereas Sinners, uh, from the church specifically, it's been a little bit of a different reaction depending on who you kind of follow. And I thought that's very interesting. And as somebody who believes in obviously God and the church and this, that, and the third, but also um decolonization of the gospel. The conversations surrounding the film have been more than interesting to say the least.
We're definitely gonna have that conversation at
For
least a little
sure.
bit here. Before we go any further, I do want to give a quick synopsis of the
Yeah,
film. And we'll get into the cast because they deserve all the flowers, man. Shout out
absolutely.
to
Totally.
everybody involved. We mentioned written and directed by Ryan Coogler. 4 films. Now, the only black director with 4 films to gross over $100 million.
Mhm.
Shout out to Ryan. Like, he just can't miss. And I want him to make more movies.
Absolutely.
And I want him to, obviously, I want him to take his time, because there's something about people who look at things and say, here's a movie that I want to see that hasn't been made yet.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of inspiration that he got. Obviously, there's a lot of Dusk to Dawn comparisons and
Yeah.
things of that nature. But the one thing that I think is really cool about Ryan Coogler is that he quotes his sources.
Absolutely.
And he will definitely say, I got inspiration from this. And that's kind of what art is. We're all inspired by something. We
Absolutely.
all watch something or see something and say, oh, I want to do that. Something like that, but maybe my way or whatever. And you can be inspired. There's a whole podcast that we're about to launch. Best episode ever. We've already done it, but we're going to launch it on its own feed. That came directly from a music podcast that was doing something similar. And
Yeah.
I made sure I shouted them out. So that's just kind of how things work. And all right, we'll talk about the cast. And I got to ask you a specific question because it's one of the things that I told you. And here at the Culture Garden, I've said numerous times, I'm a big Michael B. Jordan fan.
You are.
I've also said numerous times that I've always looked at him as the movie star versus the actor. And there's a difference. We won't go into it now. I think he's there, Rachel. I think he's there. I told you before you watched it that this was his best performance. I don't know how much, and I might have told you this exactly. I said, I don't know how much of that was the fact that he was playing two roles. And the fact that he did it so well, you kind of forgot it. You knew it, but you didn't. Like it's those characters, Smoke and Stack, were so different.
Yeah.
He did such a phenomenal job with the characters, in my opinion. Do you agree with that? Is that a little bit of hyperbole when I say that's his best performance? I think I've said this on our Creed episode. He gets better with each performance, in my opinion.
For sure. It is not hyperbole. Actually, I 1000% agree with you about this being MBJ's best performance. I've been critical. I have been critical, but when I say, and I think I said it in general discussion after seeing it the first time, he been in somebody's classes. He's done some work between what Creed 3 and this is at the last film or the other Black Panther. I'm fuzzy on the chronology of it all.
What was he in before this? I'm trying to think because Just Mercy came out before.
Oh, maybe Just Mercy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what. I'll look it up while you're discussing it.
Yeah, but even Just Mercy was a good quote unquote performance from him, better than the last. So to your point on each film being progressively better performance wise, I agree wholeheartedly. And so again, back to seeing the first trailer, I had my own preconceived notion and prejudgment, like, I don't know what that's going to do. He's doing double duty. I don't know. However, I've been eating a lot of crow.
Hey man,
Specifically over,
it's a good thing though.
but somebody who's seldomly wrong. Hello. I'm very happy to have been wrong about what MBJ could do here and what he's done. Definitely my favorite performance. Even obviously you and I both are from Ohio, even though Cincinnati is country in comparison. but that's a discussion I want to have also. Cincinnati is country in comparison to Toledo.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cincinnati is Southern Ohio, Toledo is Northeast.
Our airport is in Kentucky.
Your airport is in Kentucky. Our airport is in Detroit. Well, there is a Toledo regional airport, but
people go to Detroit.
Seldom people have flown in and out of Toledo. Even with the accents, and you guys know, I live in the South now, and it's like an honor for me. I take it very seriously. But obviously I don't have a Southern accent. And my family, my immediate family is starting to say, we can hear a little bit of twang coming through. We can hear a little something, something, if you consider me and my Catholic school voice. Pre-K through 12, it might sound a little different, but my family is adamant on me sounding country now, but I really don't. When I really get to talking to people from the South, obviously. even accent wise, wasn't necessarily spot on when you consider Mississippi. No, but it was not bad for whatever that's worth from an Ohio girl living in North Carolina, you know. So I just appreciate it. Is there more work to be done? Can native Southerners say, well, he didn't get it quite right? Sure. Howsoever, for what we were presented and probably what a lot of the expectation was, I think he blew it out the water.
Extremely well said.
Yeah.
Spot on. We forgot about your movie in between Just Mercy and Creed 3, Journal for Jordan, which holds a special spot in Rachel's heart. Whole another conversation for another day.
At what time?
I still haven't seen it.
What?
I haven't seen Journal for Jordan. And it's on Stars. It stares at me, and I'm just like,
It's on Stars. Denzel directed it.
I'm aware. My girl Shantae's in it.
Shantae Adams' beautiful ass.
You kind of scared me away from it. I'm gonna watch it. I'm just saying, it's not on my list of things to do, but I will watch it.
I will turn that on like when we get done recording.
I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out for sure. We talked about Michael B. Jordan. He played Elijah Smokemore and Elias Stackmore.
Period.
The twins, Smokestack twins. Haley Steinfeld is Mary.
Mm-hmm.
We have Miles Catton as Sammy Preacher Boy Moore. First role.
Period.
You would have never thought.
Not at all.
Some people are just born to do certain things.
And he comes from a musical family, like a great family.
And shout out to her, who he's on tour with, who brought this to him, saying, hey, I think you should audition. And Ryan Coogler just mentioned he had never just heard a voice like that. Mm-hmm. And it kind of fit exactly what he needed. And the rest, as they say, was history. But when they say some people were born for certain roles, this was one of those. I really enjoyed Miles Catton in this, and I'm looking forward to see what he does from an acting standpoint. I don't think he had acting in his sights, but now I think he might want to change that. We also have the legendary. That's not even doing it justice. I'm not talking about your guy yet, but older Sammy was played by Buddy Guy.
Yes, legend.
Absolutely legendary. Like I said, not doing it justice. Not only for his music, but Shauna. Shout out to Shauna.
Yeah, that's her daddy.
Yeah, like all of that. Like just music. It's fun. I love musical families because how are y'all talented? Every single one of y'all talented. That's crazy. It's insane. Jack O'Connell is Remick, Irish vampire. I don't want to mess up her name, and I meant to do this before we started. It's Wunmi. Wunmi. Musaku?
Mm-hmm.
Okay then. If y'all remember the way I was gushing about Davon Joy Randolph a couple years ago when I watched The Leftovers, and she's been in multiple things, but just her performance and her just taking off. And Wumi's been one. Mm-hmm. Lovecraft Country. I know a lot of people probably got introduced to her there. But first and foremost, otherworldly gorgeous woman.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Second, just act her ass off.
Yeah.
Like the perfect. I know a lot of people talked about the Mary and Stack dynamic, but it's smoking. It's smoking Annie every day of the week.
1,000%.
Yeah, 1,000%. Jamie Lawson, speaking of beauty, Pearline.
Stop me in my seat.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that she was the other queen in Woman King.
Mm-hmm.
But
she was in the Batman. She played the Mirror in Batman. I don't know if you saw you probably didn't see the Batman. I don't know why. I don't even know why I started that sentence like you probably didn't. I know you didn't.
I saw I was about to say Return of the Mac.
I don't even know what that is.
What's the one with Anne Hathaway?
The Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. I seen those, and then
Okay,
like the Michael Keaton Batman. But beyond that,
that's fair. That's fair. She was in the First Lady too. She was a young Michelle Obama. She's been in some things, but obviously she's going to take off as well, even more. She doesn't have a lot on her filmography, but incredible, like I said, incredible performance by her as Pearline. Omar Miller, formerly known as Omar Benson Miller. I've been a fan of Omar Miller for quite some time. He's been in just about everything. What Spike Lee movie were we talking about?
Miracle at Santa Ana.
Yes, thank
One
you.
of my favorite movies.
Well, yeah, one of the probably most underrated Spike movie.
For sure.
Incredible. I think that came out like 08, 09, something like that. It's been out there for a while. But that's definitely worth the conversation. We might be having that conversation soon on Culture Garden.
Yeah.
But I've been a fan of his for a while. I actually just started rewatching Ballers, which he plays in as well. Cornbread. They talked about the relationship. Really, he talked about how he met Ryan Coogler at some event. He was accepting some kind of award, and Ryan Coogler was an intern. I can't remember the organization, and told him, I'm gonna work with you one day. And then ended up speaking into existence, and here we are with him playing the role of Cornbread. Now, Rachel, the incomparable, the incredible, the legendary, one of the greatest actors who ever walked this earth. His resume speaks for himself.
A man.
Jadakiss has a bar where he says, never had one bad verse since the 90s. Never seen this person have any bad role ever. And I told you in that text message, Rachel, when I talked about the movie after I saw it, Delroy Lindo sings to it easily. I could watch a whole movie about Delta Slim.
If he's not nominated on the big stage, it would be criminal.
There's no way he can't get, like, he has to.
It will be criminal.
I couldn't even, and it's only May. I've seen 13 movies in the theaters this year. Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy.
What?
Yeah. Literally started the year January 1st, saw The Fire Inside. Since then, I've seen 13 films. I've been to the movies more time because I saw Sinner 3 times and I saw something else twice.
Man.
I haven't seen anyone that's even close. Like, I don't even know who else I would nominate. Like I said, it's only May, so there's still a lot of time to go. I know more films are coming out, the whole nine. I don't even want to know what a better performance looks like from a supporting role. And really, there probably should be a couple people nominated for supporting.
For sure.
From this film itself.
For sure. Y'all know, if you couldn't tell, I am a ginormous Delroy Lindo fan. Just from him being a fine old Black man. Aside from his performance, not just in this, but literally in everything. And that Jadakiss bar is so fitting because I cannot think of a single role where Delroy the Lindo did not just body it. I've not seen a bad performance from him or something I would be like, he probably shouldn't have taken that one. This might be a money grab. I think that he puts literally everything into every role. And we don't talk about it enough, but, Delroy Lindo is not from the States. And, I can be a little particular about non-native Black Americans playing such significant Black roles. And Delroy Lindo as Delta Slim, you couldn't tell me he wasn't a Mississippi Black man or Alabamian, some Gullah Geechee, South Carolinian, this and the third. You know what I'm saying? Like, he really, 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 really did that. And I know we don't, just because the nature of this conversation, we won't really get into quote unquote scenes, or maybe we will, but just the car ride, which was almost cut, ironically enough.
Yeah.
The car ride with Stack, Sammy, and Delta Slim while they're driving through Mississippi, and they pass by, I don't want to call them a chain gang, but essentially that. uh one of the best scenes in a movie I've seen in a long time.
Not only has he not missed on a performance, he has some iconic performances.
For sure. For sure.
And even when the movies aren't that good, like I don't want to say it's iconic performance, but Romeo Must Die. Like there's certain things that just aren't. I don't know the last time anybody's watched Romeo Must Die. I know this is kind of silly and a weird pivot, but I remember maybe a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago or so, watching it, just having this feeling about it as a kid and watching it as an adult. I'm like, oh, this movie's terrible. But Delroy Lindo is really good in it.
Yeah.
Rodney and Clocker, it's one of my favorite performances, not just from Delroy Lindo, from anybody. Him as Rodney and Clockers, which is Mekhi Phifer's first movie, directed by Spike Lee as well. Obviously, West Indian Archie, which was probably where he came on the scene. He had been acting before that, but I think that was probably his first prominent role in Malcolm X. One of my favorite Christmas movies is Christmas. Lackawanna Blues. Like you can just name them all, and he's performed, and you can tell if anybody's ever seen an interview with Delroy Lindo, he's a very, I won't say serious, but he takes the profession very, very seriously.
He's a thespian.
A thespian for sure. And yeah, I'm gonna put it like that. He's a thespian for sure. Like I just remember seeing the first time I ever saw him in a real interview, I was like, oh, he's really about this acting life. He's not here for games and jokes. He's really about it. And he put on a performance that, as we mentioned or discussed at the top of this conversation, nominate him, shoe him in. He should be walking home with that trophy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just as a quick sidebar, Lackawanna Blues is one of my absolute favorite movies. If it's anywhere besides YouTube, which is the only place it was for a while, I would love to cover Lackawanna Blues on Culture Garden.
Yeah, we talked about that. I can't remember when. We had a random episodes where we were talking about random movies. Get Shorty, I forgot about that.
Get Shorty.
Get Shorty is one of my favorites too. Just another classic. Where is Lackawanna Blues filming? I don't know. We'll figure that out. But hopefully so. Hopefully it is on some kind of streaming service. But yeah, we need more Delroy Lindo conversations. I think we've only covered on. I know we did Clockers. Not Clockers, excuse me. Crooklyn. Sorry, y'all. But yeah, Lackawanna Blues is one of them ones. Either way, that's the main principal cast. Rachel, there are a lot of themes within this film. A lot of, well, first and foremost, let me ask you this. How would you categorize? How would you describe this film to somebody who hasn't seen it?
A historical drama.
Historical drama. I like that.
Because is it horror? The last 40 minutes?
Yeah.
But when we talk about the history of this country, is it that? Yes. Is this a period piece? Absolutely. You know, I saw the people calling it a musical. It's not enough music, I guess, for me to be considered as such. But
I think that's lazy. When people say that, that's lazy. I get why they did it. All of the music happened within a very tight time frame.
Right.
And I see that. But you went an hour plus without any music. Other than Sammy in the car and stuff, the small stuff, but actual sequences and one of the best musical scenes that I've seen.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't understand why people are calling that. That's a little bit lazy.
Yeah. So maybe not that, but historical drama, maybe a period piece. If I'm being deep, you could call it a psychological thriller.
Yeah, I think there's some elements in that for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. It's not fantasy, but psychological thriller. I think that's 100% spot on. I don't think that's out of bounds at all. It's funny because you talked about the car scene and we talked about just Mississippi in 1932. Mm-hmm. Chicago ends up playing a role because the Smokestack twins were up in Chicago, working for Capone. Turns out that they were playing both sides, robbed them, having them blame it on each other. You mentioned in the notes the Great Migration.
I did. Mm-hmm.
There was a scene when they picked up Sammy. He asked how Chicago was. Her black man can do whatever he wants up there, and they pretty much said, like, listen, don't let people fool you with these fantasies.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago ain't shipping Mississippi with taller buildings.
For sure.
And it's funny how much we don't think about how we ended up where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about us, like our generation, not as our people. We know how that happened. But just in the United States of America, I'm sure every Black American can trace back family to the Delta, to your Georgias,
For sure.
to your Arkansas, all of that. Like all of it can be traced back there. I think about how we ended up in Cincinnati. My grandparents ended up here, but before that, they're all from Georgia. Okay. I'm sure, like I said, every single Black family can do the same. And you had this great migration, but you realize that it's not always the same. It's not always as sweet as we thought it was going to be. Just a little bit different. And you still got to make sure that you keep for yourself. Go ahead, Rachel.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point. So I had just a little tidbit, and it may not be 100% accurate, but usually Alabama to Ohio, Cleveland, Toledo, Detroit, ironically enough, Georgia and South Carolina, New York City and the Eastern Seaboard, Baltimore, DC, Philly, and in the second migration, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, who also had a big, Mississippi especially had a big pipeline, quote unquote, to Chicago, but all the way out to Oakland, LA, Portland, Phoenix, Denver, and Seattle. And oh my God. And I'll speak to my family specifically. My mom's side of the family, they're from Demopolis, Alabama. They settled in Ohio, Elyria. My mom was actually born in Elyria. That's Northeast Ohio. And then they moved to Toledo from there. But my dad's side, his dad's side is actually from DC, but his mom's side, they are from South Carolina, and they moved up to DC and lived all around the East Coast like that. So it's very interesting. So I wanted to ask you, like, is your family history or migration story, is that similar when you consider origin to settlement?
Yeah, so I don't. It's funny because my grandfather, when you hear me in school talk about 85, we're talking about Eddie Lee Jackson, our grandfather. He ended up here because he was following his big sister. We call her Auntie. Mm-hmm. She was following some guy. He followed her, and that's how we all ended up here. So it's just really funny how there's no rhyme or reason how a lot of this stuff goes. Just land on the spot, and there's work here, and you can build a family here.
That's exactly it.
And that's really it. And it's not the same because, as they showed in the film, 1932 really isn't that long ago, especially when you talk about it from a generation standpoint. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm talking about my grandfather, grandfather, not great grandfather, not great great great. My grandfather picked cotton. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like that's 2 generations removed.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I think we think about all of this, even MLK and civil rights. People look at these black and white photos and treat this like it's 400 years ago. I'm like, nah,
it's not that long ago.
Yeah, like both of my parents were alive, like when Civil Rights Act passed and everything, the whole movement. So alive and like knowing what was going on, not just in the crib somewhere chilling. Like, nah, we know what the effects are. It's just getting in touch with how close of a time period that was. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that resonates with a lot of people. And maybe they can dig deep into their history from that stance, and maybe ask your family, how did you end up where you are? I ask that just because I'm always one of them people like, why we end up in LA? Why we end up where the beaches are and the palm trees? Yeah. How we end up in Ohio? I love Ohio, don't get me wrong. It's always funny how people just land on a certain place.
Absolutely. I love that. And that just, it made me think, my grandfather, again, He was in the army, but again from DC. But he moved to Toledo because there was work, and he actually was a bricklayer.
Mm.
Um, but that is often not the story of a lot of Black people who moved from the South. Obviously, you're moving to be done with the ways of sharecropping, which we saw Cornbread doing. He and his family were sharecropping, which honestly is still slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting paid in wooden nickels. You know, you're getting just enough to pay what you owe to get out of debt, not enough for financial freedom because your house is on the land that you're
Yeah.
sharecropping for. So it's deep. But
Yeah.
if you look into a lot of the stories of migration, there are families, yes, fleeing for the hopes of a better life, because we've heard of going to Chicago where you can do whatever it is you want, not knowing that you will be trapped in Cabrini Green projects, you know, for maybe a generation or two.
Mm-hmm.
But also families and Black men fleeing lynchings,
Mm-hmm.
fleeing youth cussed out or shot at, or sometimes even unalived, the white man who did something to your sister, to your mother, to your family, and now y'all all got to get out of Dodge. So we get on the train to Ohio, we get on the train to Chicago, to Detroit, you know, New York, up to Harlem. And so it's so interesting, these stories. And there's a book that talks a lot about all of this, and it's called The Warmth of Other Suns, and it talks about the Great Migration, essentially, of Black people from the South up to the Midwest and the North and out West between 1910 and 1970, essentially. And I think about that because, to Stack's point, I think it was Stack who said it, Chicago is just Mississippi with skyscrapers.
Smoke said that.
It was smoke. My apologies. Chicago was one of the most segregated cities
Yeah, it really is.
in the North. If you've ever been, it is very clear where the racial lines are drawn and where you're supposed to be. And I love Chicago. First off, I love me a Black city anyways, but I love Chicago. But what Smoke said in 1932 is still true in 2025. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
be very serious about what that looks like. And I'm thinking about, you mentioned your parents. My parents are older. My dad went to my dad graduated high school in 65 and my mom in 68. So again, very much alive and in tune with what the civil rights movement was doing. Um my dad went to McTighe, which is a junior high school, the year it was built. He went to, I think, Rogers the year it was segregated. When he went to Scott, a notable, notorious high school in Toledo,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the HBCU of high schools, everybody wanted to go. When my dad went to Scott, it still had white people who lived in the old West End. You know what I'm saying? Like, it
Mm-hmm.
just was very different. And by the, my mom was there too, but by the time she graduated in 68, like
Yeah.
the classes looked very different, you know?
Yep.
So I just think about that, and it matters. And to your point, we look at Ruby Bridges. Both my parents are older than her, you know,
Yeah.
but school in the North, which had its own bouts with segregation and busing and this, that, and the third, it just wasn't like, allegedly, what we saw in the South.
I appreciate you sharing that because it's always just it's just important to remember,
Hmm.
as I said before, just the timeline of where we are,
For
just
sure.
how far removed we're not from those. And even you just saying like your parents' age and where they are as far as historical figures, it's not that far ago,
Yeah.
or not that long ago, should I say. Scott, isn't it something weird about Scott? Like, isn't it like built backwards or something like that? Or
Scott
Inside
and
Out or something
Scott
like
and Woodward are the same school in reversed as far as structure.
got you. Yeah, I
So
thought
Scott is
something about the dude who like made the design for Scott. Something went wrong, or they ended up doing it backwards. I can't remember.
yeah, whatever it is, the reverse of Woodward. But I ain't go to Scott, so don't let me tell their history. I went to Central.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. It's funny because you mentioned that book. I also want to. This is maybe not directly tied to the events and centers, but afterwards, when you talk about just how Black people in America and where they live, you talked about people going to Chicago, not knowing we're going to be in the community projects and all these certain areas. There's a book called a book by Richard Rothstein called The Color of Law. That I recommend everybody to read. It was fascinating. My brother-in-law suggested this to me some years ago, and I always suggest it when I can. A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America. This is a really good read. When you realize, and we try to figure out how people end up where they are, how are the projects,
Systemic.
we all know now a lot of the hoods, the MLKs, as they say, every MLK Boulevard is crime goes on.
I'm good.
Right, those were affluent neighborhoods. There were areas, and now that's why they're coming back and gentrifying them and redlining and the whole nine. So that's a whole nother conversation. We don't got to get too deep into it here at the Culture Garden, but a lot of it you see with the Great Migration and people escaping south to come up north, hoping for new beginnings. And yes, you get them, but maybe not in the same way that they thought.
You know what I just popped into my head also in regard to this conversation, and it is relevant. It's all streamlined. Damn it. August Wilson's play, Denzel, Viola Davis.
Fences.
Fences. Oh my gosh. My first monologue I ever learned. Come on. I'm standing with you, Troy. But shout out to me.
Renaissance. You're a Renaissance woman.
Hello.
Renaissance woman. You can do it all.
Shout out to Beyonce, seeing her in Chicago. But anyways, Black cities, Chitlin Circuit, Black art. Anyways, in Fences, Troy talks about walking essentially from, I believe I can't remember if he was from Mississippi too, but from Mississippi to Pittsburgh. He was from Alabama, not Mississippi. From Alabama to Pittsburgh. Now, it was a little later, but you also have to consider in this migration, having a car was a luxury if they existed by the time you did your walking and carrying on. Vagrancy laws were a major thing, late 1800s to the Great Depression, essentially. So the people, the federales, they could pick you up if you were just walking, because what the fuck you doing? Vagrants. Crime, this and the third. We can just take you to jail, take you back to wherever the fuck you came from, essentially. So the fact that these people even were able to make it up, but in Fences, Troy is talking and he's like, by the time, first off, we from all the way down here, this is pre-global warming. The weather was different. So I don't know that when I get up to Pittsburgh that it's going to be fucking freezing while I'm out here living in a tent in red clay because I don't have a home. I don't know that I need a fucking down coat in the winter. Just consider that level of culture shock. I think about that for Pittsburgh, from the South to Ohio. You in Cleveland, that lake effect is crazy. You live there. You get from Mississippi to Chicago. That's why they country too in Chicago. From Mississippi to Chicago in the Hawk, that damn wind, people died,
It's real.
Just because of the unpreparedness, because you don't know. All you have in your mind is that I'm going to essentially this land of milk and honey where a Black man, woman can be free, not knowing that you're about to be oppressed by this goddamn weather. I can't do it. Can't go back.
No, you can't. And that's spot on. Just once again, we talk about the time period of just not knowing. You just said that perfectly. You have no idea what to bring. You're trying to escape and start a new life, and
you didn't even have that shit.
Yeah. You wouldn't even have a coat. Like, why would I have a coat ever? It's completely different. Rachel.
Yeah.
The title of this film is Sinners.
Uh-huh.
You kind of touched on the subject of church.
Uh-huh.
We got to talk about it. All right, I'm gonna just pass it over to you because I want to know, as someone who was in the church, as someone who not just there, like showing up, like knows your word.
Yeah.
What was your interpretation of the title and the overall message of this? And we see Sammy's dad as a preacher. And a lot of this is broken at the beginning and the end, or themed around that guitar.
Yeah.
And letting go of that guitar. And there's a scene where Smoke is telling Sammy about, oh man, I can't remember this to town, and I feel like an ass because of that. I didn't take notes in the theaters, unfortunately. But this black-owned town, and the mayor kicked us out because he knew our daddy was evil, and there's no way he didn't pass that evil on to us. If you're gonna leave, go there. Don't go to Chicago. If you're gonna make music, make church music. This theme was going around about what it is, and even when you look at somebody like Sammy, who people pointed out, beginning of the movie, he has a hat like Stack. End of the movie, Buddy Guy has a hat like Smoke.
Yeah.
Kind of seeing I want one thing, but I get satisfaction out of the other thing. Not to mention this sin, air quotes, maybe not air quotes. This sin saved my life. Like, this guitar saves me. There's so many layers to it, and you mentioned that maybe the enthusiasm wasn't the same from the church this go round as it was with a film like Get Out. What do you say to all of that, and what is your stance on the message that they were definitely saying something? And what did you pick up on
it? Okay, so I don't want to say it's not a loaded question, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot
when you consider. So I think I've talked ad nauseum about being a church girl. I grew up Baptist. My father, ironically, grew up Catholic. Again, DC, them Black Catholics. But I went to Catholic school at pre-K through 12. When I graduated and left my parents' home, I was essentially done with the church. I'm no longer forced to go. I'm doing what the fuck I want. If you ask me, I'm in the far country. Shout out to the prodigal son / daughter. That was me. Then, in the words of Rhonda, you better know who to call on when you're out here living, literally in the pit. And so I found in my journey back to the church, I did a brief stint as a Hebrew Israelite, almost.
that would have been interesting. What year was this?
When was, because I dyed my hair from blonde to red, because they said that's a curse. So maybe
what year was this?
I left Ohio in 20.
This is Charlotte. This is
let's say when I really kind of was introduced, 2011, when I really was in those YouTubes, 2012, top of 2013, maybe. Then I got out of that because I'll spare y'all my thoughts on that. I never committed, so maybe I wasn't in it, but I was in the video.
Oh, man, there's a whole other Rachel we need to untap, but
Listen,
that's neither here nor there.
I've lived a life, and so I found my way back into the church. In that, go ahead.
you might be tying this in, because the other thing that I was going to mention in that question, not since it's not loaded enough, multiple references about the religion being forced on us.
Okay. Yes. So I have many thoughts, obviously. If you ask me, I am a blood washed believer in the gospel of Jesus Christ. I can say the Lord doesn't need any help, quote unquote. Howsoever, if I'm also of the belief that God created everything, if He is the truly, He, she, them, they are the creator of the universe, you can't tell me that you believe that and not believe that the herbs and the things of the land have whatever power. Everything that we need, we already have. It was given to us in the land. What we
Somehow,
do with it.
I was about to say, somehow we have credit scores, but
Bullshit, you know?
that's neither here nor there.
Do I conceptually understand that Christianity actually originated in Africa, East Africa? We from the West. If I get into my Israelite bag.
They was on the strip in Vegas, by the way.
Oh, I know it. Oh, I know it.
Had people shook.
Yeah. Their belief is that, they came from Israel and carried the word in their hearts, the Hebrew, and then weren't living according to the laws in the Old Testament. And so they were taken by ship to America, which is in Exodus. I can't remember the scripture off the top of my head. Sure. What I know and believe in my heart of hearts is that on those plantations, there is a little bit of everything. And whatever our people needed to survive so that we could be here, whatever spiritual gift, however they used it, I have to give honor to that. I have to give some sort of credence to that. Everybody knows I love New Orleans. It's a church on every corner in New Orleans. But when I say that you can still feel the spiritual pull, if I believe that the hoodoo and the voodoo are powerful, the magic is at work. For me, it exists. Do I understand it all? No. I think it's how you practice. And when you consider hoodoo specifically has a Christian base, it just depends on what you're doing with it. This is survival. And somebody had the knowledge to teach and carry so that you can be healed of whatever it is that you had. When you look at your grandparents and they give you some turpentine versus whatever cough syrup, and this works, this is from the earth. This is something that was given. Whether my maternal grandmother, she lived with us, and my paternal grandmother, she died before I was born, so I didn't know her. But if you look at somebody like Annie, whose roots, no pun, and mother's prayers and grandmother's prayers and lessons carried and protected both sheep and smoke, there's deference that you have to give to that. I don't have to practice this to understand that there's power in it.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say that this is the white man's religion. It is, um, because I just don't think that we don't experience God in the same way. All
Yeah,
that shouting and carrying on, that's ancestral. That's in the body. That's why when the drummers hitting the hi-hats, and again, powerful scene in the movie, the scene of the movie, when you look at what music does and the differences in the music of the Black church versus um other denominations and whatnot. And this is a separate conversation, but that for me is one of the biggest takeaways from this movie that I have is the
mm,
importance of our sound.
yeah,
And so CCM has taken over. It's some songs that I like. It is. Howsoever, if I understand what I understand about the power that religion has and the power of your sound, of your story, of your gospel, it is imperative that the Black church gets back to um, our origins of sound and our songs and the things that got us through and carried us over. This cool. Some of it is good. Some of it is good.
yeah,
But to know what I know and understand what I understand, it's intentional that
yeah,
our sound is being, for lack of better words, whitewashed, um, to fit that. Because why can't I talk about the God that got me through, how I got over? Like,
mm,
yes, I sought the Lord and He heard me, but also it don't hit like a moaning and groaning of the deacons. Like it's just not the same, and I know that that's by design. The same with like evangelical pastors who are teaching acceptance instead of resistance. You know what I'm saying? It's such a loaded thing when we think about the gospel of some of these messages, even in the Bible app, which I be in every day. When
yeah,
the riots and stuff was going on, it's telling you to be peaceful and this, that, and the third, and not talking about Jesus turning tables. Because when you ain't doing right by my people, somebody got to pay. You turning my home into a den of thieves.
yeah. You just touched on a lot of different
I did.
things,
I did.
um, in a great way. And I don't know if I realized this in real time, or
Mm.
maybe subconsciously I did. One of the themes and messages in this film is tracing it back to our origins
Yeah.
and just generations and how that looks moving forward and how to maintain who we are with a changing and moving world.
Mhm.
And I've seen different stories online about, or different theories, should I say, about Remick and does he represent the music industry, just the white man in general, just all of that. Like, I'm here for your music. Like,
Mhm.
I want your music. I heard that voice.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that he was Irish, once again, that's an entirely different conversation that we can have. If you're not familiar with the Irish and their plight, just go look up Twitter the day that Queen Elizabeth died.
Baby, the
Um,
Irish is going up.
that was the day that I knew Irish Twitter was a thing. And they have their own story to tell. This is why Sinners is good, because all of this is conversation, right? I was going to ask you about why is it, I don't want to say difficult. Why does it always seem like there's never any common ground when we have discussions about things like religion? And I think a lot of it is tied into something you said, just about the origin and getting back to what it was.
Mhm.
and also just the lack of understanding. And as you get deeper and further away from the actual origin, it's like the telephone game. You have the power to change something, and who's going to check you?
For sure.
We don't have that as much anymore, where tradition's tradition. And
Yeah.
that's in all waves of life.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's certain things that when you start out in it, it's one way, and then you look up 20 years from now and it's a different way.
And it's a different way.
And
But you know what? The Bible says if I get understanding
but that's
with
the thing.
life, that's the thing. I think you should look at it differently than you did as a child.
Absolutely, you should, and you should question everything, and you should try to find your own understanding. I think that's just naturally healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find your way back to where you were, that's cool too. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think because no one or experiences anything else, or maybe don't have the general curiosity
Yeah.
about learning, none of these conversations that we're having, or that Sinners is having, or the discourse surrounding it, they're all based on belief.
Yeah.
More than anything, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're steadfast in your belief and you're not open to hearing something else, then there's going to be the bumping of the heads,
For
whether
sure.
it's about religion, whether it's about class, society, even something as simple as Smoke wanting US motherfucking dollars, as he says in the movie. And Annie and Stack realizing this is about community.
For sure.
This is about people mattering after they've been busting their ass in these fields all week.
And that's all they have.
That's all I have. I'm giving you what I have. I'm keeping it within the community. Is Smoke wrong for wanting that cash, to wanting to better himself, to wanting to elevate things to a new level? What's more important, right? My success, my family's well-being, or the community as a whole? That's a real conversation.
It is.
That we look at. There's a lot of people that look at it as, hey, there should be no billionaires in this world.
Yeah.
Not when people are homeless, not when people don't have, not when the price of everything is through the roof, not when we're staring at a recession right in its face for the however many times in my life, which is ridiculous.
Crazy.
And there's other people that saying, nah, man, like I earned this, I work for this, I'm building this empire. I want to make sure my family has an extreme safety net, and I'm going to help out people when I can. But if I want to hoard these billions and hundreds of millions, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not going to kick back and give back to the people who I feel, not me personally, the people who have that type of wealth and power and access, that I feel are going to fumble it. Like the gatekeepers. That's why when you reach certain tiers and brackets, you start hanging out with certain people in that area for a multitude of reasons. A, they can understand the things you're going through. B, even people like us who aren't millionaires and billionaires.
Not even close.
Not even close. One day, maybe. Who knows? I don't even know if I want all that problems. But I will say, take something as simple as traveling. Can't just travel with anyone. You have to travel with somebody within your realm. Otherwise, it's not going to be a fun trip.
Yeah.
I said this before. J. Cole said it. What good is first class if my niggas can't sit? Like, it's no fun. And I've heard many celebrities talk about this. It's no fun being the only nigga with the money.
Yeah.
Because it's not a good experience. It's not the same experience. Yes, it's cool to like take people on trips and let them experience things, but also it can be exhausting when you are the sole breadwinner and you're looking out for 15, 20 people every single time, and they're depending on you. And it's like, damn.
That's whack. But shout out to Cole. But I'm sorry, if I get upgraded, we all on the same flight. Put them headphones in and you watch a movie back where you at. I'm gonna go take my seat. I'm not waiting for niggas in a regular line when I'm in pre-check or when I'm in global entry, baby. I will see you on the other side. We all gonna get there.
Yeah, man. It is something about, I don't know, just something about that little bit of juice.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're doing, right? You talk about pre-check. It can literally be, I walk in Chipotle, the line's out the door, but I ordered on the app. I can go straight to my shit and pick it up, and I'm looking at everybody in line like, look at y'all niggas.
Could be me.
Silly as hell. It could be something as simple as that, but
Yeah.
anytime you have a little bit of access,
Mhm.
or a little bit of, hey man, I'm about to get you in, or we just look at it differently. I don't know if there's enough of a, I'm taking everybody with me. I don't know if Smoke's mindset was, let's do this for the community. It was, let's make this money. And I think Stack was on some, let's just have some fun and figure it out. Like, we'll figure all of this out. We just smoke Stack twins.
Yeah. I think Smoke wanted to be an entrepreneur. I want to build something and I want this to last. Unfortunately, the next day we knew even if the vampires didn't come, there were some other bloodsuckers on their way.
Yeah. And that's, you know what? Once again, another theme in this film, freedom.
Yeah.
Were you ever going to be free? Remick
No.
said something along those lines. They won't let you worship how you want. They won't let you build. Like, we can do all of that. When they try to convert them and flip them over, right? Explain why this life is so much better. Like you said, Rachel, whether the vampire is left or not, even if we waited this thing out, even if was it Grace, Faith, Grace, even when Grace invited them in, first of all, I'm about to say something that I probably shouldn't say.
Oh shit.
For the sake of everyone staying alive, one of those skillets that Annie was cooking with, I would have looked at Annie, go grab that.
Listen,
we about to knock her out cold, because I'll be damned if your emotions are running that high. If that's the case, go outside. Go outside with both. You can go outside, and you know what's gonna happen to you. If you feel that strongly about it, peace out, my nigga. We're gonna stay inside. We're gonna be cool. But for you to just invite all of this in, when we could have just waited this out to the morning. Now, does that mean that tomorrow night's gonna be different? No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
But that was just some bullshit.
We would have made it through the night for sure.
We would have made it through the night. But like you said, even when you make it through the night, Hoggart, whatever his name was, and the clan was coming to get him.
For sure. You made a point, and I just want to briefly, we don't have to delve. I will admonish you all to do your readings. But when you think about Remick being Irish, I think that Ryan Coogler was intentional about that because the Irish were oppressed. And then when you consider you flee your oppression there, and then you come here and be an oppressor, you look at their roles in chattel slavery, in slave catching, in the police origins. It's very interesting when you have that in your mind, coupled with that speech from Remick that you just mentioned. Like, damn, everything that you are trying to ensure that I buck up against, the things that I denounce are the same things that you experienced and come here and did. It's deeper than rap.
It's deeper than rap. And once again, whether it's the Irish or even within the community, like that happens. Like we don't talk about that enough, probably. Just the class differences within our own communities and how that's looked, and the gaps within wealth and just resources.
For sure.
And what that means. And it's a lot. It's a lot. That's all I'm going to say. It's a lot of stuff to unpack. And that's why this is going to be a film that can be. So I've seen it 3 times in the theaters.
I'm not in school anymore. um and with the current status of this country and education and this that, and the third, those of you know I have a background in Africana studies. I would love to break sinners down uh in a class, in an AFST class, with other like actual scholars. You really can't take the religion out of it, but what a film. And there's nothing untouched. There's nothing untouched in this movie. You have themes of race, you have themes of colorism. We haven't even touched on the one drop rule and octoroons and quadroons and all of that. We briefly discussed Mary, because the internet has blown up She and Stack when really Annie and Smoke is the love story.
What do you think that? Let me ask you real quick. What do you think that is? Why do
Colorism.
you think? No, is that why the internet is going with that love story more than anything else?
For sure. When even though, and honestly, I wasn't familiar with Haley, or is it Hallie?
Haley Steinfeld. I knew spoke about Marvel earlier. I knew that she played in Hawkeye.
I
And
wasn't familiar.
I guess she's a pop star. I didn't know that. I guess she's a pop star on some One Direction shit. So I don't
I
know.
wasn't familiar with her game. Clearly, I'm still not. Um, but the conversation kept, and a lot on the birds like, "Oh, I miss them. I miss them. I miss them." Why?
I guess that's the confusing part. Like, why? Like, what is it about them that drew?
Colorism, and Wunmi is stunning. She is absolutely gorgeous. She is absolutely beautiful. But the intimacy was between she and Smoke. She and Elijah,
100%.
Annie and Elijah had what was beautiful. Um, traumatic due to the loss of their child. But that was the intimacy. All we saw between Smoke and or Stack and Mary, some fucking, okay, yeah, you ate my coochie. I loved you.
Spitting in her mouth.
My,
Hey,
my
hey.
toes. I wanted to be with you, but I didn't want to be a white woman, but you made me so that I could have a better life. Okay.
Isn't it?
Where was the love? Annie put a hedge of protection around her man. Hello?
Yeah, and that's the all right. Once again, for the umpteenth
He's a
time.
big body Benz. When you see Michael B. Jordan, they never had no dark skin, big body Benz, has no love interest.
And I love the fact that Ryan Coogler saw that and made that happen, because just as beautiful, if not more. But
More.
yeah, definitely for me, more. But
Even
even then,
ain't nobody going up for her gorgeous ass like that on social media, which is crazy because literally one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. Two dark-skinned people, her and Sammy, eating her out of house and home. Come on. That's the story. Not some octoroon cussing in a black scent.
Afternoon, my octoroon. I just thought about that King of Field quick. I guess the thing that boggles my mind right now is, how are you having, not you, how are people having this discourse about this black ass movie, having these black ass conversations, and still circle back to that relationship? That's the one that I guess that's why I'm surprised, because listen, we can't shame people for what they do and what they like, but all we can do is pay attention. I pay attention to everything, and when people make comments or make allegiances, it's just like, okay, bet I understand it. That makes sense. I see you. This just seems like the clear choice as far as who you were more invested in and what's real. Like you said, that's some deep That's a deep love, and you can feel it. You can feel it through the screen. And I was when the film first came out, and people said, "Oh, I thought that might have been his mom," and I'm just like, "Yo,
Why?
y'all are
Because
bugging."
she's a big black woman.
Yeah, like, y'all
Thought
are.
that was a fucking mammy.
Yeah, I was just about to say, y'all think she mammy?
That's it. That's it.
Insane.
Fucking insane. As somebody who believes in calling somebody that they care about by their government name, Annie almost always calls Smoke Elijah.
Mm-hmm.
All but once did Mary call Stack instead of Elias.
Mm-hmm.
She only called him Elias when she was a demon already, when she was a vampire. That should have been, and I didn't realize that till the second time I saw it, but that should have been a light bulb moment like, oh, she's not the same. She's different. You've been calling him Stack all of this time. I see you. I can lust after you and your black body because you know how to eat it. Even though I live wealthy over here in Arkansas. Hello?
For some reason, I was debating on saying this, but for some reason, I just kept thinking about that Shannon Sharp text message and the wild shit that was being said, and it made me think like, yo, there's really niggas out here like this.
Come on.
We've kind of not danced around. We discussed the interracial aspect of things in films that we've seen multiple times. Obviously, this was probably the most obvious
Yeah.
theme.
Mm-hmm.
The white women. I listen. I just can't. I can't take a movie that was this well thought out, this well written, and realize that all this shit started. Who was the first one back? Who was the first one that got turned and went back in and kind of jumped shit off? It was Mary, and it's because Stack. He was there. Listen. He was lost in the sauce.
He was lost in the sauce, but Mary thought, you've been family all day. You thought you could flip your white switch and go talk to them and go see what they're talking about. Go feel them out. You done got your ass bit out there fucking with them people.
We don't have the same plight.
We don't have the same plight because I can come and go as I please. I can move into any door because I grew up with y'all. I have the benefit of familiarity. You do look at me as family because my grandfather is black. But I live as a white woman. That's Sammy. I ain't know who that bitch was. I don't know who the fuck this is. Stack, it's a white woman staring at you. Are we about to in Clarksville?
Cornbread didn't know who she was.
Cornbread, he knew after the fact, like, oh shit, Mary, that is you. You know what I'm saying?
But that's the whole point, though. Like, if it was really embedded, then it wouldn't even be all that. It would be as soon as I spot you, oh, that's such and such.
Exactly. And so it made me. I thought about we're having so many conversations, but
that's the whole point of this.
But I thought about passing, and
yeah, that's the same movie I thought of, Rachel. I swear on everything.
Yeah, I thought 100%. About passing and trying to figure out how much I'm gonna give y'all. I am very familiar with people in lineage who've passed. In the movie Passing, Tessa Thompson, and we know she biracial in real life.
I believe so.
It's fair enough to obviously pass, and on a hot day she does because she wants some fucking water and air. And she meets her childhood friend Nami, Ruth Nega, who always passes. Tessa's character, she passed when she wants to benefit, when she wants to actually get some good groceries for her family, for her black husband and black children, when she wants some air, some relief from the hot Harlem sun, she goes and she does that. But Ruth Nega's character, she lived that life.
Mm-hmm.
And her nickname from her husband was Nig because she tanned so well.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a nigga.
Which is wild. Which is wild.
Crazy. And you sit smiling while Tessa's character is visibly uncomfortable as he recants this story. And you just laughing and yucking it up. That is what I imagine
Yeah, man.
Mary's life is like. And so, yeah, you might want the real, but a choice was made somewhere along the line. Stack might have told you to marry this man and go to Arkansas and live this life where they don't know you. Get out of Mississippi. They don't know you an octoroon up there in Arkansas. Go be white and be all right. Whereas down here, we know, and maybe you don't have a choice in Mississippi because we know what the one drop rule is, XYZ, or in Clarksdale. But a choice is made. And I feel like I'm giving Tessa props in her role in passing. But when you make that choice, you got to sit on it. And so Mary, what she was trying to do was play both sides. See, I'm down. I'm invited to the cookout. I'm invited to the juke.
I know I hate that cookout shit.
But I'm going to go over here and try to relate to them. And see, I'm a good white,
Just trying to see if y'all good people. I think there's a whole nother conversation to be had. We're not going to have it, but there's another whole nother conversation to be had about the white people who want to be down, who could easily pass and live this better life.
Yeah.
But choose to want to be down with the family and show where they are.
Your family.
Not the John Brown style,
mm-hmm.
but more so just because I want to, because it seems cool. Y'all having fun over here. And this is kind of who I relate to. And obviously her mom would have had some kind of, we don't know what her mom looks like, but we do know she was, her mom's dad was, or was it her mom's dad or mom's mom was half black?
I think her dad. Her
yeah,
mom.
So she got, her mom had more of it than she did, and so on and so forth. I don't know. It's
a lot.
It's something we got. It's something that's discussed. It's real. It's there.
For sure.
And especially when I see, I'm sorry, I just got to bring this up. When I see things, especially since he's been in the news for all types of stuff, Saquon Barkley, right? So Saquon Barkley, from Pennsylvania, and we're not even going to talk about what, the whole golf thing and his social media. I'm more so his wife. They had uncovered some tweets from her.
Yeah.
Like wildly racist. Like some of them like, oh shit.
Yeah. Cheetah niggas. Talking about the cheetah girls. Come on.
Yes, cheetah niggas. Yes. Which is fucked up. It's not funny, but what the fuck? Like it's almost you so wild that I can't do nothing but chuckle. I'm laughing at the absurdity. Not what's actually being said. Yeah, like, and you're raising black kids. And I'm sorry. I don't understand how that sits well with people. And once again, we said this earlier, a lot of this conversation that we're having is just about belief.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no concrete right or wrong. But I personally just don't understand how you can be comfortable with that. And I'm not saying she's not the same person, but that's not. Sometimes people only got to show you once. I don't care how much rehabilitating you've done and what kind of work you've done to be better. Shout out to you. Shout out to you and your growth. But you showed me that one time, and I can't unsee that. I can't unimagine that. And that's just kind of wild that's a wild world to live in.
It's
that whole cookout shit. So
it's a wild world because now obviously I'm not in your home, but now I think you be in that house calling your black daughter's hair nappy.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm like I said, we're not.
Patrick
Y'all
Mahomes.
know, y'all know we don't kink shame here or whatever. But you definitely be letting that woman say nigga around the crib.
For sure.
100%. Like there's nothing. And even if I'm wrong, there's nothing you could tell me that I'm
That
wrong.
to make me think otherwise.
Yes, if you tell me that I'm 100% wrong, I'm still gonna leave saying, nah, she be calling you nigga.
Yeah.
Even if she don't call you that, she lets that shit fly.
He lets it fly.
Even if it's just a song going
Nothing.
and she says the word, I know it's happening because cheetah niggas,
It's crazy.
what?
It's crazy.
You gotta reach for that.
It's insane.
So I don't know. It's just we see it to this day.
For sure.
That dynamic and what that looks like, and it usually ends up like you're stacking your married.
Mm-hmm.
And the smoking Annies aren't the ones that are just being celebrated as the true black love as they should have been.
Yeah.
Because that was something that was real deep versus I think Stack and Mary had the lustful thing. And they had their heartfelt moment. I'm not saying that the love wasn't there.
Yeah. Because I think he did probably love her.
Yeah, but it was too much. And I think this is maybe this was the point. Who knows? We've all probably been in a situation with someone. I love you. I fuck with you.
Mm-hmm.
But there's way too much around it. It's exhausting.
Ooh, my Lord.
You know what I mean? It just can't be it can't just be us.
For sure.
There's always something else that's attached to this.
It's
a plethora of things. And we can't just be us. And over time, yeah, you can try to live on that whole like love's gonna make us survive, but it just wears on you. And it's just like, all right, man, sit. And I think that's what their relationship represented. It's just too much. Can't even be with you the way I want to be. And here we have Smoking Annie.
Yeah.
Really living it. And I just don't understand why shout out to everybody who is highlighting that couple and really riding with them.
For sure.
But it's just fascinating when I see people gravitate towards that. Especially when you say you love this black ass movie.
Did you?
All right. Yeah. What did you love about it? Now I want to know. A couple quick hitters, Rachel.
Okay.
Before we get out of here. A couple things that I want to go ahead and discuss with you that we kind of put in our notes.
What, the blues? It's just quartet music.
You said what?
Gospel quartet is just the blues about Jesus. Okay, go ahead.
Listen.
That wasn't it, but just so y'all.
Jonathan Majors. Just really quickly, because there was a opening weekend. There was a discussion about we know Jonathan Majors mad that he wasn't in this. Do you feel he should have been in this? Not should have. That's not the word. Would he have elevated the film? And nobody's taking away his acting prowess. Like he's one of them ones. I've not seen Magazine Dreams yet, but I heard that his performance in Magazine Dreams was like award worthy, like really? Phenomenal. Absolutely. And that's the thing. Nobody's saying Jonathan Majors can't act.
Yeah, he acts all the time.
What are your thoughts on Jonathan Major and any kind of chatter about him possibly being in the film or him supposed to have been in this film? Not in a real way, we're just saying we know his.
Yeah. So in the trailer, I think that was one of my first comments. I was like, oh, he definitely was supposed to be in this before he fucked it up. I mean, he still dresses like a smoking stack. So I thought that was right up his alley.
Facts.
After seeing the movie multiple times, and maybe Ryan has spoken to Smoke and Stack being identical twins. Could there have been room for him to have been either brother? Sure. But I don't miss him not being in the movie. The movie, it doesn't suffer because he's not in it. Facts. Even if he wasn't a twin, you need an elder like Delroy Lindo to be Delta Slim. You need a big brolic Omar's not really burly, but you need that kind of stature to really pull off Omar. I think,
Mhm.
I mean, that's his real name, to pull off Cornbread. Um, I don't even know what he would have done if not one of the twins that would be significant. You might
Even
feel, I don't know.
even the conversation saying, "What if he played Smoking Stack?" I don't see it being.
Mm-mm.
I don't see him raising the bar of the performance that much
No,
higher. That the film's different.
no.
I just don't see it. So I get it.
Hmm.
Phenomenal actor. We'll see what happens with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see. I get it. Like I said, I don't see it. I don't
Hmm.
think it makes the movie that much better at all.
Yeah.
Current box office numbers. I do want to talk about this because there was a tweet from Variety.
Hmm.
You've all have probably seen it by now. Pretty much just shade and unnecessary.
Hmm.
I don't know why they do. Well, we know why they do that, but um, not really want to give the black film props or kind of judging it differently. If you take away, all right, so Center comes out the very next weekend, The Accountant 2 comes out.
Hmm.
And before I even get into this, shout out to everybody who saw that headline and called it out for what it was.
For sure.
Whether you are just a regular person who was browsing the internet or you're a Ben Stiller and just says, "Yo, what the fuck is this?"
What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, like what would prompt you, the number one movie, to write a headline like that? Like that's just weird. Like that's the perfect word for it. It's weird.
For
So the
sure.
film has been out for 3 weekends. It was at number one the first 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and then this week it is currently number two. Um, $90 million budget, which Variety let us know. It is currently sitting at $179.8 million and
Period.
still growing, still climbing. The film has such an effect that they announced they were pulling it out of IMAX for Thunderbolts, the new
Crazy.
Marvel film. The outcry for
Hmm.
more IMAX screens and centers made them prolong it for an extra week. And
Hmm.
as soon as they put those tickets on sale, all of the IMAX screenings were sold out,
Yeah.
especially at the 70 millimeter screens, because everybody wanted to see this film the way it was supposed to be seen. And I still haven't seen too many people come out of the theater saying, "Ah, it was all right." I've seen a couple people say, y'all hyped it," which
Haters,
you knew that crowd was going to be there.
haters with questionable black sensibilities. Anyways, go ahead.
Once
I'll say it.
echoing the conversation we had earlier,
Yeah.
I observe everything. Sometimes when I see certain people say certain things, oh, that makes sense.
Hmm.
I
Fitting.
understand why you feel that way. It fits. I wouldn't expect anything else from you. But the film is doing great in the theaters. Please go out. Continue to support this. Go ahead.
And I'll tell you, having seen it in IMAX and in what standard Dolby, it does make a difference. And so I can only
Mhm.
imagine the difference in the 70 millimeter versus the regular IMAX. And so in Charlotte, it will be back next weekend to IMAX. And so I'll be back again in IMAX to see it.
Yeah, incredible. And I'm sure it's going to reach over 200 million.
For sure.
Just for an original film. We don't get a lot of these. This is what we've been asking for.
For sure.
And I'm glad that everybody showed up, showed out, supported, saw it multiple times.
Mhm.
I even told Rachel I'm going to see it again for this conversation. I'm going to see it again before I see Thunderbolts, because
Yeah,
Marvel they print money
we'll
over
make
there.
that money.
They gonna make their money. And I saw Thunderbolts and I liked it. And I saw The Accountant too, as I mentioned. That was my point I was going to make. The Accountant 2 came out the following weekend, and Variety had a headline about them
Completely different.
completely different, even though they weren't making a ton of money
Hmm.
or on track to break any kind of records. But the headline was different. I'll be the first one to tell you, I enjoyed The Accountant 2. Enjoyed it a lot. Very unintentionally funny. My type of, I think I put it on Instagram, my type of senseless ridiculousness.
Oh.
Like just entertainment. Like it just it's not for everyone, but I enjoyed it. It's like if Jason Bourne was a comedy, is the best way I could describe it.
So
Um,
no for me.
um,
And I've
tell
not
you
seen
what,
one.
I'm about to say the one is on Max. I'm picturing this right now. I'm picturing me telling you, Rachel, check it out. I'm picturing you starting it. I'm picturing you 20 minutes in, like, what the fuck is this?
Turn the
It's a
lights
yeah, it's a different take. It's good. Nah, it's a no. You ain't gonna fuck with it. You will watch it if it was on,
Yeah.
but you ain't about to rush to the theater to go see the sequel. I know that much.
Okay.
But either way, Sinners is still doing very well in the box office. One of the last things that I wanted to kind of end this with was to talk about a sequel or a prequel.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, do you have any interest in seeing what Smoke and Stack were up to in Chicago? Do you have any interest in seeing how Delta Slim became Delta Slim? Maybe seeing a film where that story that he tells is shown? Do you have any interest in seeing young Sammy from the night of the events and him going to Chicago and how he ended up starting his career? Um, do you have any interest in seeing Stack and Mary in present day?
No.
Still out here doing whatever. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Because I think it's a testament to the characters and the film and the acting that people want more of it.
For sure.
But sometimes more is a little bit too much.
Yeah. I don't need Stack and Mary beyond the post credit.
Yeah.
Shout out to her for getting to live a black life. I don't need that. I think we've seen Delta Slim's story in a little bit of a movie that we all love called Life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which lets you know that even though Life is a comedy, it's also a horror, a psychological thriller.
We discussed life for our 50th episode.
Yeah.
We discussed life for our 50th episode, and that was mentioned. Mo, shout out to Mo. He always said that. Like, I never looked at life as a comedy, even
Yeah.
though it had some funny stuff in it.
Black people, we're funny.
Yeah.
We gonna be all right. That's why all of our boots is on the ground now, in this current place of wrath and tears. I would like to see the twins in Chicago in the lowest of keys.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be a cool little story about, them playing the gangsters against each other, the Italians and the Irish, in Chicago, which again, if you know Chicago, very large populations of both cultures. And you could see where wars could be fought over the city.
We know Illinois and Indiana neighbor each other. A lot of Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans in Chicago. I'll just say it like that.
My high school mascot is the Fighting Irish.
So what?
My high school mascot is the Fighting Irish.
Oh, we know.
Shout out to all them Jesuits.
We know. We know. So Smoke and Stack in Chicago.
I could see Smoke and Stack in Chicago. Honestly, not necessarily a prequel, but a story of Annie and her family and their root work. Yes, we've seen Eve's Bayou, but I would love a movie really delving into Black Southern Gothic and root work. Essentially, I don't want to keep calling it root work because I can't think of a better term at this current juncture. But I would love to see that. If you watched Underground on wherever it used to come on TV, it's on Hulu.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it though.
Yeah, it's on Hulu now. But Johnny Smollett was produced by John Legend, Aldous Hodge. Her mother, Amira, I think her last name is Vaughn. I can't catch it off the top of my head. But she knew the workings of them herbs. And I'm not talking about KFC with them herbs and spices, but she too could do the things and knew how to dare I say, heal the body to save you, to protect you, this, that, and the third. I would love something on that.
I didn't think about that, but that's
Mhm.
a great one.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the winner. I'll probably be more interested in that. As
Hmm.
much as I cared about Smoke and Stack, which once again I don't know if credit goes more to Ryan Coogler or Michael B. Jordan. The fact that I cared about those characters, the
Yeah.
fact that when Stack got turned, I was like, oh shit. Knowing that he'd still be in the movie, but not in the same way, like you shouldn't be that invested into these characters like that,
Yeah.
especially when you know they're not real twins. But that just goes to show. I've always been fascinated with twins anyway. I just think that the dynamic between twins is very
Mhm.
interesting. And I'm glad that they got to explore it. I know Ryan Coogler brought twins that he knew growing up on
Mhm.
set to kind of understand, so Michael B. Jordan can understand more about the twin dynamic.
Mhm.
We saw how much they meant to each other. Even Smoke when he said, "Man, the best things about me were him."
It's him.
Um, Even Smoke just always being the big brother, like the one that killed their dad, the one that
Mhm.
Stack was talking to Sammy and said, "Y'all daddy beat you, not me." You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like it was, I don't know what it was against Stack, but he was the one that got the brunt of it, and Smoke wasn't going. And I've been protecting you all your life. I'm keeping you safe all your life.
Mhm.
Um, I would love to see the Chicago aspect of it. The reason you can't do it is because I think it dims down what this movie is. It will be
Yeah.
such a completely different movie.
Mhm.
Maybe, maybe there's still a lot of elements you can tie into, but we've seen that movie before. I think
Yeah.
we've seen the working for Capone. We've seen that. This is different, and this was one of a kind. And I guess ultimately, what I really hope for is that it leads to more original ideas with Black storytellers
Sure.
in Black films and actors, and your idea about a story about Annie. Like,
Mhm.
hopefully, it spawns things like that so we can have these conversations in depth because we know there's an audience that we're going to go out and support,
For
um,
sure.
especially with good promo and just good. Think about this. We've been talking for almost 2 hours, and we
Crazy.
not even a real conversation about how we know the culture. And we're
Yeah.
we're literally bouncing off the walls in this combo.
Mhm.
We could probably go for another two if we needed to, because there's still other things we can peel back the layers on. We're not going to, but um, hopefully everybody out there has seen the film by now. If you haven't, please go see it. And if you haven't seen it, go see it again. Run the numbers up at the box office.
For sure.
Rachel, do you have anything else before we get out of here?
Um, Go see Sinners again.
Mm-hmm.
Love yourself. Love your people. If you have elders still around, ask them their stories. Um, Recenter why you think things in African and indigenous spirituality is demonic, and not godly. Love your people. Take care of your people. Take care of yourself and each other. God bless y'all. May the God of your understanding bless you real good.
Perfect way to end it. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed this remix version of Culture Garden.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week with a movie that we'll discuss in our normal format. But Sinners was one of those ones. I don't know the next time we'll have a movie like this where it's going to gain this much cultural conversation as well as mainstream conversation.
Mhm.
Hopefully sooner rather than later. Um, Rachel sent me the trailer for the or teaser trailer
Yeah.
for the new Spike Lee Denzel movie, which looks like it's going to be phenomenal. It's funny because I just made a post.
Please. Out of here.
Yeah, I just made a post on Instagram Sunday using James Brown, "The Payback" as the song, and then I listened to that teaser trailer, and that's used. So everything's aligning. I can't wait for it. Maybe that's the next big combo. But until then, we'll see y'all next week. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all be cool. How y'all be cool?
Ashe.
We out. You a fool. Peace.
Bye, y'all.